Welcome to the Draft Pros Hockey 2025 mock draft. It's mock draft season, so we got the boys going here. For the first pick, we have Blaine from Habs Unfiltered as well as Draft Pros. You can check his stuff out in the description below as well. Follow him on X. But you have the Islanders at the number one pick. Who do you think they're going to take?
Well, see, the Islanders, that's a tough call. They really need one of either a defenseman or a center, and they have that at the top. They don't have a GM quite yet, so you don't know what direction they're going to take. But if I were in charge, I would pick Schaefer just because you have yourself a top pairing D man who can do everything and play 30 minutes a night. Those are not easy to find. Neither are top line centers like a Michael Misa, but yeah, I'd have to go with Schaefer if I were the Islanders.
I completely agree with you. If I were the Islanders in that position, I would also take Schaefer. Just one quick note. He said in his interview with Draft Pros that his player comp is Kale McCarr. So if you're getting that kind of player, he's definitely deserving
Yeah.
to go number one. So at number
Even
two, we have Alex.
they have the luxury of patience. So with his injury, they can let him play out next season in junior.
Yeah, I completely agree. The small sample size, I mean, people are saying, why did he jump from five to one? It wasn't really that big of a jump, and he was the best player at the World Junior Championships for those 1.5 games before he hurt his collarbone. And it's not a detrimental injury, just like you see with Carter Bear, who's one of my favorite players in this class. But a lacerated Achilles is very tough. But a collarbone injury, we've seen time and time again, players can come back from. So I just feel like that's a good point too. And then do you guys have anything to say about that, Tyler or Alex?
Completely agree. I think he's the best player of this draft. Just versatility, skating, hockey sense that he has, just to fly up the rush and have that confidence with the puck. Undeniable first overall pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly, for me, I actually don't think the Islanders are going to keep this pick. In my
Interesting.
opinion, I think Islanders really want James Higgins just because he's a local boy, and I mean, he's gotten some flack for, and not having the best year, which I mean, keep in mind, did have a point per game, as a freshman, which is, not easy to do. But I do agree, yeah, Schaefer is the best player in this draft and should go first overall.
And to your point, in the NCAA playing against like 22 to 25-year-olds as well, where he was the best player under 19 in that entire league. So that's also something because you're seeing Porter Martone and Michael Misa, if he doesn't make the NHL straight out of camp, go to the NHL. They're going to take that step. So you already have players like James Haggins and Logan Hensler that have already taken that step. So that's a really good point, Alex. And we're staying here with you at two. Who do you think the San Jose Sharks are going to take?
Well, like I mentioned before, I think San Jose is going to aggressively try to trade up and get that first overall pick from the Islanders. That's my hot take of the draft. Um, I mean, Michael Misa is by far the second best player in this draft. I actually think that there's quite a large gap between him and that kind of group between 3 and 5 of Tone, Frondell, and Hagens, which is what I have in my own personal rankings. I mean, Michael Misa is by far better than all of them. I mean, the numbers he put up this year speak for themselves. He's got good size, 6'1", 185, and he'll work on putting on some muscle. His skating got a lot better, his shot got a lot better, and his confidence really, really grew as of this year. And I just think, exceptional status, there's so much to like about him. And I don't know if in a lot of years he would be a first overall pick, but he would definitely be in contention in many years. But I just think he's by far the second best player in this draft. So I don't see if San Jose doesn't trade up to get the first overall from the Islanders. I think it's Misa for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm a big Misa guy, and I want him to fall to three to the Blackhawks because that's my team. But unfortunately, lottery luck didn't help. Tyler and Blaine, what do you guys think about that pick?
Well, not only if San Jose doesn't get Matthew Schaefer, if they don't trade up, then you got your 1-2 punch of the future. You got Celebrini, who's that amazing playmaking slash two-way forward, or you also have Michael Miso, who let's say, like example, you had Mario Lemieux and Ron Francis style, where you had two number one centermen. They could switch it's a 1A, 1B option, which I think flat out bar none, Michael Misa is the best forward of this draft. Take him at two.
And don't forget also, Misa can play wing, and they also have William Eklund who can play both wing and center.
That's
So
true.
there's definitely options that they can make, which for a coach is an absolute dream.
They'd have a really tough competition going up the middle with Celebrini and Smith already there. You mentioned Eklund. Misa is a guy who can play center and wing as well. So those top two lines are going to be something else in about 4 years.
Oh,
Yes.
Misa could play on the second line, like you said, center it, or they can create an incredible line with Misa, Celebrini, and Will Smith. Because I think Will Smith and Celebrini, you have to keep those two together. You saw the chemistry this year and their bromance. It was like Artemi Panarin and Patrick Kane that one year. I just felt like it was an incredible chemistry that they showed. Having Misa just solidifies that top six for them too. So for three for my Blackhawks, I think that the best player at this position for me is James Hagens and Porter Martone, but I don't think they're gonna go that route. I'm gonna say Anton Frondell here, just based on like the things that people are saying in Chicago reporters after the lottery. He has an incredible shot, two-way or top six center. Transition is an issue, but I think once he moves over to the North American sized rinks, that will improve a lot. You see his toe drag release and some of his tape. He has some of the best shots in this entire class, like I said, but he's a two-way center that solidifies their top six. They have a lot of depth, so I think that they would love Michael Misa for sure. But Anton Frandell is a good player to have. You can slot him in with Connor Bedard if you need be, and during the playoffs if he's having a tough time in the faceoff circle. But every Swedish prospect that I've talked to so far has said that he's the best player they've ever played against, and that was also with playing with against Victor Eklund. So there's a clear reason why Anton Frandell is like regarded so high with his peers. What do you guys think?
Well, it's a good pick. It does fit needs, but Chicago has so many needs across so many areas that they can't go wrong with any of the guys at the top of the draft. Honestly, I can see them being a team that trades down
I
a couple
agree.
of spots.
Completely agree.
For sure.
Yep. There was actually a rumor yesterday that just came out of nowhere, and it's probably nothing. But there's some talk about like the Blackhawks trading down to 9 and trying to get JJ Peterka with the 9th pick for third. And we would also have to give up like Reichel and one of our defensive prospects too. But I feel that that could be like a very good alternative because you're going to have to draft higher than the value is of the picks if they're not going to take Porter Martone because of his skating woes, which I think that he's a good skater. It's just his first three strides. So you take the assets right there with JJ Peterka, which you need, the 23-year-old player to play with Connor Bedard, and then somebody else like Jake O'Brien, which we're really high on with the Brantford line because we have Merrick Vanacker as well as Nick Lardis who just scored 72. And Jake O'Brien, actually, if you talk to Brantford people in there, they say he's the best player on that team this year. So when you're the best player on a team, when someone scored 72 goals, you're setting the guy up very nicely. So that's a really good thought. And then for 4, we have Utah Mammoths, and Tyler is on the board. Who are you taking?
I'll have the responsibility for Mr. Seth Ditchfeld, which unfortunately he couldn't make it, but that's okay. I believe they go for Porter Martone. You look at how Utah's been drafting, they go for size, which honestly, you need size, you need strength. In the NHL, you need to survive. You need to be durable for a long 82 game season. What a perfect player to play with Clayton Keller on the first line for Porter Martone. Just his resilience around the net, silky hands and tight, great vision. The only small thing that he needs to work on is his skating. That is somewhat of an issue. You've seen that with someone like a Matthew Tkachuk or a Corey Perry, is that they need to be versatile around the net, but they need to work on that explosiveness, that those first 3-4 steps. Other than that, he's quite agile for a guy at his size. Defensively could be slightly better, but you're not getting him for his defense. You're getting him for his playmaking, his vision, and he does have an amazing release. He can definitely put over 30 goals per year, which I believe that's why the Utah Mammoths are going to go with Porter Martone.
That's a great pick. Yep.
Can't argue
What
that.
do you think, Blaine?
Can't argue it.
Yeah, I also agree. I think that's a good pick. Me personally, I actually had Porter Martone going third to Chicago, but I also really like that point Tyler made of having, first line of Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, and Porter Martone. I mean, That line will do a lot of damage.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The thing is, I want Porter Martone 3, just as a lot of Blackhawks fans do. He's the fan favorite. But if he does pass to 4, I think that Utah's definitely snatching him up. And then you also have Logan Cooley over there as well, who's very, very good and talented. So if you want to play him on the second line with him, that would be incredible too. So then Nashville Predators, we have Blaine with the Nashville Predator. Or are we doing Snake or are we doing redraft? Okay, we'll go Snake. So Alex, I believe or no, Tyler, you're still up.
For the Nashville Predators, you gotta get the best player on the board that's right there, and that it has to be James Higgins, no doubt about it. Yeah, you could say that he doesn't have the best NCAA year, but that's kind of overshadowing it. The fact that you're still a point per game player and still have the vision that he has playing against players that are much older than him, you gotta think about that as an adaptability feature in the long run. Playing with the competition that's older, it allows him to adapt much quicker to the NHL level, which I think having someone like Ryan Leonard with him, learning that physicality standpoint, I think it's going to really grow his game.
Couldn't say it better.
I mean, it is a great pick. They do need a center. They need scoring, but I can see Nashville going in a different direction with that center. You just talked about Jake O'Brien, a larger bodied center who plays a two-way game, can be very physical. Same with Caleb Desnoyers. I think Desnoyers, in my opinion, would be the one that they would lean towards. Big kid, plays really physical. He can play in any style of game. But I mean, Hagen's pure skill-wise, best player available there. But if you're looking for a little bit more of the other intangibles, which I think Nashville will just because of who they have in their roster and who's starting to age out, they might go a different way.
Yeah, that's a good point with Desnoyers because he's one of the best defensive forwards in the entire class. Then Jake O'Brien has so much raw skill and so much upside that even if you're taking James Hagens or even if you're picking best player available or for upside, it could actually be a player like Jake O'Brien because he has that upside. James Hagens is an incredible playmaker, has incredible vision, and the Predators just I don't know if they're a James Hagens away. I think that they could take just the clear upside pick because they have 3 first-round picks as well and an early second-round pick. It's right there. So it's a good point by Blaine as well. And I think you're up next at 6.
Lucky me. Now it's the Flyers, and you've got that, like I just mentioned, a big center who likes to play physical, and I would go Jake O'Brien on this one for sure. His style of play it really fits what the Flyers are doing.
Yeah, Jake O'Brien's a great pick here. I'm a big Jake O'Brien guy. Some people are lower on
I
him.
like him too, actually. I saw a lot of his games when he would come to Ottawa. I've never seen the vision that he has and his adaptability to his teammates. I think that's one trait that you need in the long run in the NHL,
That's a great
adaptability.
Now, some of the listeners and some of our readers might think that's a bit off the board, but just look at what Philadelphia did last year. They went a little off the board, and if for that style of player.
Yeah, Luchenko. That's a really
Do you
good.
guys think also with Caleb Desnoyers that there is familiarity there only because his brother was drafted by
That's
Philly?
right.
Yep. His brother Elliot
Yeah.
does play for their AHL affiliate. It's a really
Mhm.
good point. Yeah. It's a really good point. So I have 7, and 7 here is a tough one because I know I've seen a lot of tweets and people say that Don Sweeney has seen Roger McQueen live multiple times, and Roger McQueen started off the season with 4 goals, and in his first game, and he missed 4.5 months with a shoulder injury. So I actually am going to take Roger McQueen here just because I think that they need the center depth as well. They've lost so many centers over the last couple of years. Roger McQueen has incredible upside. You see the Cam Robinson's tweets way back when he believes that he could be the best player in this entire draft based on upside if he hits. His player comp when I talked to him was Ryan Getzlaf, like right-handed center that's 6'5". I think he's going to go a lot higher than people think. I mean, it's a Kirby Dach situation. So I think that Roger McQueen might actually go. I think he could go to 4 if we're being honest, just based on upside. If people have great medicals on him. So I think Bruins are going to take Roger McQueen here.
I have a little bit of a hot take on this one. Knowing how the Bruins are, like I think it's gonna be quite a surprise, but I think they go Brady Martin as a
I was
center.
gonna, yep,
And the
yeah.
reason being is that you look at their system, you look at the way that they like to implement their players, and especially their centerman. Brady Martin is an absolute killer on the ice. It may not look like it because he's 6 foot, 75 pounds, but he plays like he's 6'3", 6'4", 210, 215. He just runs over people, and not only that, even though his playmaking might be quiet, he probably has an unbelievable shot. Like in close quarters, I'd never seen him miss. Like he at least gets a shot on goal at least 90 to 95% of the time. That's how good I think he is. Plus, they like guys with high character, and Brady Martin, when I spoke to him in Oshawa, he's got that kind of character. And that's what the Bruins guys, they enjoy that because they know that they can trust them.
When you were talking about a hot take, I knew you were going to say Brady Martin because I was just on a mock draft today. The I said Roger McQueen, and everybody that I was talking, the two people I was talking to said it's going to be Brady Martin, and I was like, that's interesting. And they talked me into this. He is he can grow so much more with his frame, and he's already the
Absolutely.
best hitter in the entire draft. Yeah, just imagine a 200-pounder, like a 195 Brady Martin with like just added muscle. He can hit with the best of them. Even in the NHL, he'd like those Cam Robinson tweets. He said he might be one of the top hitters in the entire league, like in 2 years. Like this guy actually has so much strength, and he doesn't even have a filled out frame. So that's a great play for like
Actually have an
a
even
team.
I have a bit of a hotter take in it just based on what you guys are saying.
Hmm.
I actually think the Bruins are gonna go defenseman.
Interesting.
I think looking at their prospect pool and who they have, I think Radim Murtka is the perfect fit in Boston.
Okay.
If you look at their D, who they have signed long term, they have McAvoy, Lindholm as their top pair. Then they have Zadorov. And then outside of that, Mason Lohrei is good, but he's still young. But on the right side, they have virtually nobody. And
That's a fair point.
me personally, I think Radim Murka is like a carbon copy paste of Colton Parayko. And I think that would be absolutely perfect on the Bruins on that second pairing right side.
I like that.
That would be a really good one. When I talked to him, his player comp for himself was Moritz Seider.
It's a good one also.
Yeah.
I can't get that out of my head now. 6'6", big kid.
Tough to pass
Who,
on.
yeah, really is. Like in every mock I've done, he goes to 8 in Seattle. They keep him in
I
Seattle.
just don't
So
think he's got the offensive upside that Moritz Seider has.
mm,
I know he's roughly point per game in the WHL when he came, but I don't think he's going to be that in the long run. Like you want him for his stability. That's what you get him for.
That's why I say he's more of a Colton Parayko. And a lot of the things that people said about Colton Parayko that are maybe missing from his game are the exact things that Righty Mirka is missing. He's missing that shoot first mentality, which Colton Parayko's only started kind of implementing in his game now, and that meanness, which is also something Parayko still has kind of missing. But outside of that, I think offensive projection is like a Colton Parayko that, 30, 35 point guy, he'll put up maybe 8 to 10 goals somewhere in that range.
yeah, that's a great point. And then who do we have? I think Lane is. Oh wait, no, it's me. Sorry. Wait, no. Who's up next?
I think it's
We
me.
had. Okay,
Yeah.
Alex. I'm gonna put the names down there because the snake draft is tricking me. So B. All right, Alex. Who do you think is gonna be at 8?
Well, it's no secret Seattle needs defensemen. They need defensemen and they need them bad. Looking at who they have on their roster now, they have a lot of okay defensemen, but they don't have anyone like game breaking that puts them over the edge. Like, they have Vince Dunn, Brandon Montour, Larson Steady, stay-at-home defenseman. I think if they're looking for someone that's more dynamic, I think it's Jackson Smith. I think that's a perfect player that they can have who, in my opinion, I think has a lot of the tools of becoming a potential first line D pairing type of defenseman. Maybe not necessarily a number one D man like a Matthew Schaefer, but I think more of that middle of the road top pairing guy. His skating is outstanding. The
Absolutely.
the guy skates, in my opinion, the most smooth skater in this entire draft. the way he's, hops on the edges, his movements, his stride, I think it's just so flawless. His feet do need to, he needs that more, giddy up and go. His feet are lacking a little bit of that speed, but he just plays so smooth, so calm, so poised. And I think his ceiling really can be a first pairing defenseman for a team like Seattle.
I 100% agree. Alex and I, we saw him in Oshawa, no?
He was unreal in the Oshawa game. In my opinion, besides Matthew Schaefer, he was the most impressive player in my opinion on that Canadian team in the game we saw in Oshawa.
Wow,
He's
that's a
quite
really good
calm.
pick.
He's quite calm. I've noticed he's quite calm. I would like for him to have a little bit more urgency.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that he needs. Otherwise,
And
he's
again, I choose Jackson Smith over Mertka only because of the projectability and like that ceiling. Like to me, Mertka doesn't have that offensive ability that'll translate. Like I see Mertka's ceiling as being a number 3 defenseman versus Jackson Smith as a number 2. But right now, I would say Mertka is a little bit better in terms of the floor, but the ceiling for Jackson Smith is so high, and I love his game so much.
That's a really, really good pick for them. I like Jackson Smith. I think he's like a Kevin Korchinski with more upside. And if they didn't ruin his career by putting him in the NHL first year, just that offensive awareness that they have. And he's a big kid too, 6'3". A lot of people don't talk about his size, but he has a really good playmaking ability for that size. So we're gonna go. I think Blaine is up next for the Sabres.
Okay.
The you're yeah, the order got smashed for a little bit, but it's going to be back on track. So we're going to do Blaine here and then Alex next because the order got ruined a little bit. But here we go with the Sabres. Who do you think they're going to take at?
Oh man, they do need a right-handed defenseman. I do think Merca fits in there. They got a ton up front. They have a ton of left-handed D-men that they picked first overall. So a right-handed D-man who can pair up well with one of those two big names is exactly what they would need. And I think Merca fits that bill.
Yeah, Merker's a really good pick here because you're trying to help out those left-handed number 1 defensemen that you have, and this kind of helps them for sure. I really like Merca. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
Not reach there either.
It's what they need. I mean, me personally, with my mock draft, I had the Bruins taking Mertka, but I think if Mertka, does get picked before, what do you guys think about if maybe Buffalo reaches and goes for like a Logan Hensler type player?
I have an interesting take too. I think they could probably trade down, and the guy I think that would be a great complementary defenseman would be someone like Blake Fiddler, which I'm a huge fan of. He
Yeah.
brings the physicality. He pretty good skater for his size. 6'4", hits, pretty stable on the back end. Like it helps someone like a Bowen Byram or Rasmus Dahlin who can move up the puck, be that offensive guy, whereas you can have Fiddler be that backup steady defenseman.
Like,
Mhm.
let's say the Habs want to come up because they have 16 and 17. They don't have to give them both picks, but they can try to take somebody like a Jake O'Brien over there. Like, I just feel like the Habs are such a good pick to trade up just because they have so many assets.
Yeah. If Buffalo were willing to move back to say 16th, I could see Montreal jumping all over that to pick Caleb Denway.
Yeah. Oh,
That would be
Yeah.
awesome.
that
Wow.
would be special. That would be special for sure.
Yeah. The Habs already have a scary prospect pool and team. I mean, you guys got Demidov for free, basically, in my opinion. And then Ryan Bacher's there. I'm a huge Demidov guy. Like, it still stings me that we took Artem Lushinov, but that's for a different discussion. It hurts me so bad. But that's a great pick. I completely agree with you. I'm a really big fan of Merca, and I think the Sabres could trade up or down. I really don't see somebody that fits the mold for them at 9 unless it's like a Jake O'Brien. Like they would need Jake O'Brien to fall, or else they're leaving. So the Ducks, we're gonna go back to Alex. Who do you think the Ducks are gonna take at 10?
This is an interesting spot because I think it's no secret that Pat Verbeek loves size. It's not a secret. Everyone knows it. Personally, I thought in my own mock draft, Roger McQueen would fall here to 10 and Pat Verbeek would jump all over that. But if Boston does take him, just looking at the players available, Anaheim is in no need of, uh, they have such a good prospect pool. They're on the come up, with a lot of teams like Montreal and San Jose, Chicago, Detroit, So they're not really too worried about getting, the the player with the craziest upside, looking at their prospect pool, just purely based on best player available, I think they go with Caleb Desnoyers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's a
I
player Pat Verbeek likes.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
assume he's gritty. If they need him in that, third line two-way forward center position behind a Mason McTavish or an Leo Carlson as their 1-2 punch up the middle. I think it's a good pick. I think it fits well, and he's the best player available.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have a huge argument that for me, my personal rankings, I have him as a top 5 player in this draft just because of his versatility and the way that he thinks the game. He thinks like a centerman. He thinks like a first line NHL centerman. Yes, he may not have the point projections that you would like in a first line centerman, but defensively speaking, he still has the vision. He still has the hands. You're not gonna miss. You're gonna getting somewhat of a high ceiling, but most importantly, a very high floor type of player.
Yeah, he's
And
gonna
he's a
play
gamer.
for sure.
He's a gamer. He
Absolutely.
rises. His play in the playoffs is better than it was in the regular season.
Yeah.
Big games, he shows up, and that's hard to find in a hockey player nowadays.
Flat
Like
out bar
that's
none.
not often.
at 3 when I was picking for the Blackhawks, it was actually between Frondell and Desnoyers. Based on everything that I'm hearing out of Chicago, they love that kid. Like they love Frondell too. So that's why I think it's not going to be Porter Martone. It's going to be one of those guys. And just imagine like Caleb Desnoyers playing with any of those young Ducks players, but especially like playing with Connor Bedard at 3 because he's a defensive player that has so much the floor is so high and the upside is right there. So I like that Tyler has him in his top 5 too because he's trending to be a top 5 pick. He definitely is. The top 4 that we knew and loved is not going to be the top 4 that happens. Like Frondell and Desnoyers is gonna or Jake O'Brien, they're gonna be in the top 4 and everyone's gonna be surprised. But the Pittsburgh Penguins at 11, they actually have back to back. I just want to say this real quick because the Rangers conditional, we
Yeah.
believe, or I believe that they're going to give the Penguins this pick based on a lot of the Rangers people I've talked to. So that's why I'm saying they have 2 picks. So
Mhm.
for the first pick, I'm actually going to go with somebody that there's no way they think that he's there. But this is a deep draft, in my opinion. I know people are saying it's not, but when you could get a guy like Victor Eklund at 11 here,
Absolutely.
you're running
Yeah.
to that phone because it's not in, there's nobody at the draft. So you're running to your phone to call this pick in. Victor Eklund is one of the best Swedish prospects in this class. Second for sure, but when I watched him play, I felt like he was better than the tape that Anton Frandell had, but everybody loves Anton Frandell, so I agree. But Victor Eklund, he's awesome. And his brother William is a star, 22-year-old star. Like Victor Eklund could be a top 6 producer for a very long time. Like in a redraft, I could see him top 5 for sure. This
Absolutely.
was set up, I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I completely agree. Completely agree.
I'm not sold that he's a top 5 player in this draft. Something about I love his tenacity, I love his skating. But when I watch him play, I love him. Like, I don't know, there's something about him where like I wouldn't be able to put him above a James Higgins or a Caleb Desnoyers or even Smith and Murtka. To me, there's something there where I actually think at 11 he will be there. And I think Pittsburgh, like you said, will run to the phone to take him. But I'm not as sold on him as a lot of people are. I think he's good. I don't know. There's something about him that like wouldn't make me think he's a first line player.
I agree with you on like Haggins and Desnoyers. Like I do not believe that he's the better prospect out of those two. I definitely would probably have him over Smith and Murtka, but he's also a smaller player, like under 6 foot. If he's strong and his motor is incredible. So if he comes into the combine and has, a really good weigh in and his height is over 6 feet, I think that he could push up. But at this point in time, I do not believe that he's a top 5 pick. But in a redraft like 3 years out, he could definitely be in consideration for that if he has a really good role. So Tyler at 12, you have the Penguins again. Who do you think they're going to take?
Well, originally in my own personal rankings, I saw very well that the first guy that they would take would be someone like Brady Martin, but I'm not going to go that because they already took Victor Eklund, which very similar style of player that they're energy forwards. And this is the theme of this draft is that you have a lot of energy style of players. And I think you're going to get another energy style of player, but you're going to go on the back end. And I think they go Kashawn Aitchison as this hard-nosed, shut-down, physical defenseman. And we got to say, he might have the best shot out of all defensemen in this draft. His shot is just an absolute heat seeker from the point.
Yeah, his slap shot is it's nuts. Like I would not want to block that.
I would not want to block that at all. I'd probably try and duck just to get away from it, just to say
Yeah.
that at the very least.
And he plays more of a throwback style to
Yes.
defensemen of the 90s. He's very physical. He's very good at gap control and angling guys out just so he can smush them against the boards. He's got that massive shot as well. So there's some offense there that still needs to be tapped, even though he's almost a point per game. There's
Mhm.
still more. That'd be a great pick there, but I'd be surprised that Dubas would overlook a Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound for anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Martin goes between this range.
Getting Eklund and Martin, I think Pittsburgh Penguins fans and their GM would cry. Just getting those two players.
Yeah.
On some boards, they're top 7. Like the Pittsburgh Penguins, they're going to get a top 7 player on their board, in my opinion, at 11 or 12.
Yeah.
Like this is a really good spot to be in. And if they wanted to trade up, like I could totally see, like Utah going to 4 to 11 and 12 or something of that sort. It's like this is ammo for them if the Rangers end up giving them the pick. But I think you have to keep the Gavin McKenna sweepstakes open if you're the Rangers. So Tyler, you have the Red Wings. Who do you think they're going to take here? Stevie Y.
Okay, someone that I have met, to say that at the very least. You look at their style of players that they have. You got players that think the game well, and that's what Steve Yzerman likes, is that he likes players that they think the game well. In this case, though, I think they go a little bit different, meaning that I think they're going to try and go for an upside player rather than a floor player. And I think pick will be Justin Carbonneau of the Blainville Armada. I've got to see him, I don't know how many times. He's another gamer. When you get a positive, like all out energy, Justin Carbonneau, he's not missing. He scores 46 goals for a reason. His shot probably is, you can argue that it might be the best, one of the at least top 5 of forwards in this draft. His playmaking is actually surprisingly underrated. His hands are absolutely silky smooth. He's got pretty good size at 6'1", 190, which I think he can still fill in, be like 205, 210, maybe be 6'2", 6'3". Someone that I see a comparison. I'm not saying that he's gonna be him, but I see a lot of Ilya Kovalchuk type of player in him.
Wow. Yeah.
I think he's that good.
Yeah, he's got a power game to him too. Like that shot is good, but it's that much better because he uses his physicality to get to those
Yes.
dirty areas. And he plays kind of a Ryan Leonard style. If you
Yes.
watch Ryan Leonard, it's the same approach, going to just straight to the front of the net. And he can do tips, he can shoot from range. He's very versatile in that manner, but more importantly, he creates chaos. He opens up
Yes.
ice for his teammates. So that's a great pick. If anything, I think Detroit wanting to make the playoffs, wanting to be that playoff team, they might use it as trade bait for someone else. But if they were to make a pick, that'd be a great pick to make.
Does he have the best shot in the entire draft, do you think?
I probably would say
Up
so.
there.
Just
His-
the velocity that he brings. Like I see like the way how he pulls the puck into his feet and he makes it look effortless. Like
His shooting in motion is by far the best in this draft.
absolutely, absolutely. I will say there is one thing that somewhat concerns me, which I don't think it's his character is a very good guy. Like got to interview him a couple of times. Plus, I will be interviewing him very soon. Like just to get a deeper understanding of how he thinks. But it's really about his on ice character that it can be a little concerning, and that is because he wants his teammates to play in a specific way that fits him, which I think can be somewhat concerning because he has everything going for him. Offensively speaking, physically speaking, he has everything. I just think it's about having him being able to adapt to his teammates, I think might be an issue. That's why I think it's mainly a floor concern instead of a ceiling concern.
In my viewings of him, I've had a couple of conversations with him here in Halifax, just real quickly after games. He seems more that he's demanding of his teammates to meet his level.
That's exactly what I'm thinking it
Yeah.
is. Because of how good he is, because of how high level I think he is compared to his teammates.
Yeah, and Tyler, we
And
saw that when we went to watch him in Blainville. Like Mateo Nobert, like he's so much better than everyone else on his team. And like I know what you mean because at times he looks like kind of frustrated that like guys on his team don't read the game the same way that he does. So
Yeah,
like, he'll see one of his teammates kind of either make a mistake or make a play that he wasn't thinking, and you could kind of see him being like, let's go pick it up now. Like, but he
he's trying to get them to bring up to their intensity level, to his level, because
exactly.
of how intense he plays. I
Mhm.
think that's the concern. But when we saw him in Oshawa, I think it was, I don't think he had that issue because he
No.
knew he had the players to play at his level.
Yeah. And just one
Eiserman was
note,
that kind of player as well.
yeah, Eiserman was that
Eiserman
kind of player.
absolutely was that kind of player.
And one comparison I heard from a scout when we were in Oshawa, which I think is pretty solid. He's like a young Ovechkin.
That's why, well, we were
Yeah.
there. It was a guy from New Jersey, I believe, right? He was
Yeah.
the New Jersey scout. He
Yeah.
was talking about very young Alexander Ovechkin style of player. And I absolutely agree with that.
hmm
Wow, like that was some incredible insight there. Just the fact that he's like, I don't know if you saw the Michael Jordan documentary, but that's kind of how he was with
It's
teammates. You need that if
very,
you want to
very
be great.
similar.
Very
And
passionate.
passionate's what you need. A lot of
That's
players,
exactly what he brings.
exactly. And I think the thing about Ryan Leonard when you guys brought him up was that he was slated with his like Will Smith and Gabe Perreault, and they thought the same way as him, and that's why, those point totals were just insane, for those years in college and the USNTDP and all of that. Like if Justin Carbonneau had players that had that same level of IQ, we'd be talking about this guy in the top 10 for sure. 13's
Absolutely.
close, but you know, people might be
hmm
surprised that he's going this high or this low. I mean, the conversation is very split. He had more points than Caleb Desnoyers this year, and he's just not getting the same hype around him. Stevie Y, this would be a Stevie Y pick for sure. Yeah, great analysis there. Is there anything else you guys want to say about Caleb Desnoyers or sorry, Justin Carbonneau? All
Great
right,
name.
so yeah, I didn't know how to say it at first, and someone said carbonara, and then I was like, well, I'm Italian, so that really that's good for me. I will remember that. But 14 for the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we have some guys on the board here. I will take Malcolm Spence here. He just committed to Michigan. I think
Yep.
that's going to help increase his draft stock for sure. He's a playoff player in my opinion. When I watch
Mhm.
him play, he looks like he plays with some aura. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how to explain that, but it's just like he plays with a certain level of confidence that you can't find. Like he's a great leader. Everybody that I've talked to loves him. He's Matthew Schaefer and him are great friends. Everybody that I've talked to has spoke so highly of Malcolm Spence. He was just one of my favorite players I've watched. And Erie had some great players this year with Martin Misiak. Matthew Schaefer only got to play a little bit, but like Malcolm Spence was definitely the leader of that team for sure in the playoffs, which is hard to do. And Michigan's going to help him. What do you guys think?
I think his
Go
game
for it.
really projects to the pro level extremely
Mhm.
well. North-south guy, loves the forecheck. He goes to the net. He's got a good shot. I mean, his approach to the game is exactly what NHL coach would love to see. He
hmm
does not have to worry about
Absolutely.
him on defense. I mean, he does all those little things that translate to the pro.
Yeah, at worst, you're getting a top nine like
Yeah.
player, in my opinion. I think
At
his floor is
least.
extremely high.
Yeah. Like I see him as like a better skating Jamie Benn. That's
Wow.
Interesting.
that's
That's
how I
interesting.
that's how I see him. I mean, with Malcolm Spence, like to me, I view him as he doesn't do anything spectacular, but he does everything very, very well. Plus, I mean, the kid can throw him. I mean, he can chuck him, very well, which that's why I like that comparison with Jamie Benn because it's a lot of the same traits, but Malcolm Spence is by far a way better skater than Jamie Benn. I think he's better skater than Jamie Benn right now.
And his
I
cellies.
Yeah, for sure. When I saw it, he probably I would say probably the smoothest skating forward I've seen for this draft class. Like, he might not have the explosive feet that you're looking for, but transitionally speaking, the way that his flexibility in his movement, I think that's what helps his durability. And that's what helps him skate as fast and as agile as he is for someone who's 6'2", and that is a big man for his size. And I like that comparison with Jamie Benn. Not to mention, part of the reason that what I maybe have heard about going to Michigan, another good buddy of his that I know in Henry Muse, he also got committed to University of Michigan, and I asked him about what his relationship was and how he thinks of Henry Muse as a player. He thinks really highly of him.
There's a
That's
lot to love.
yeah. When I talked to him for Draft Pros as well, like he said he had two player comps. It was way back when, but it was Carter Verhaeghe and there was one other player he played for, maybe Marco Ross. No, it was yeah, Carter Verhaeghe, I believe is a really good comp for him too. Like he thinks the game at a high level, and like I said, that floor is just so high. So I think Columbus would definitely want to take a player like him. Yeah, I just think that that would be a really cool fit. So for Vancouver Canucks at 15, Alex, who do you think you're going to take here?
Okay, so something about this pick, I keep circling back to it. You know, Vancouver, just their team, something about them, just there's something missing in Vancouver. Well, there's a lot missing, with a guy like Brock Besser leaving, Quinn Hughes might be, we don't know. They're my opinion, I don't like Vancouver's roster, but when you look at who they have in their pipeline, even on defense, forward, I'm not really sold on a lot that's there, but there's one player that I keep placing in this position, and I really like the fit. Plays very close to Vancouver in Vancouver, and that's right winger Cameron Schmidt.
Yeah.
I love this fit. There's something about I can just see Cameron Schmidt playing on that top line, just flying down the wing, ripping bar down shots. Just I love Cameron Schmidt. I'm so high on this kid. He's very divisive in his rankings. If you look, I mean, he goes anywhere from Craig Button has him at 8, and then, Bukala from Sportsnet has him at 38. This kid's rankings are all over the place. But in my opinion, yes, he's small. Yes, he's not the strongest kid. He's a boomer bust prospect. Again, small players, if they're not playing on that top two lines, they're not making it in the
No.
NHL. My opinion, Cameron Schmidt is good enough to be a top 6 winger in the NHL. I think he's very similar to Alex DeBrincat. I love that comparison. I think with Brock Besser leaving, you have Connor Garland on that second line, right wing. Lekkerimäki, in my opinion, is more of a third line, two-way forward type of winger. I think Cameron Schmidt will bring so much speed, so much offense to a team that desperately, desperately needs offense.
Yeah, pound for pound, he's a top 10 talent in this class.
Absolutely.
When
Absolutely.
Craig Button ranked him 8, I understood why, even though he got flagged for it. It's not because the guy's 5'7". It's if this guy hits, which every prospect is boomer or bust, basically. And especially in this class where you're going to have stars come out of like the woodworking, like 27, 28. Vaslav Nestrasil hits or something. There's so many players that have such high upsides. So that's why I think Cameron Schmidt actually falls. Everyone keeps saying that this draft is not as good as 2026 or whatever, but 2026 has like a great top 4 or whatever. But this class has so much depth that I could see Cameron Schmidt actually falling to like pick 27 or
Wouldn't
getting
surprise
drafted
me.
at 10.
That
Yeah. And he's such a talented player. I mean, I've seen this kid play. Like he understands like that he is small and he has those deficiencies with his size, but I could see him playing like on a third line, but a power play specialist. Like if you have this guy with space, he's gonna make a play. So I really like that fit for Vancouver, who needs just a superstar. Like,
Yes.
they need somebody to hit, and if he hits, he has one of the biggest upsides in this entire class.
I agree. If you want to talk about mechanically, Cameron Schmidt, by far the best skater in terms of speed, agility, acceleration. By far the best.
Yeah.
Shooting mechanics, his toe drag releases, it's just so elite to the point where I honestly think his release if you put him in the NHL right now, it's a top 20 release by far. This kid's shooting mechanics for a guy who's 5'7", this guy can rip the puck an elite NHL level.
I think for sure. When I got the chance to see him, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago. He might not have gotten like so many chances, but when he gets those chances, wow, he can absolutely. It's like a laser locked onto a target. That's how accurate his shot is. Just his hand placement that he brings. It's like he carries a release style that I kind of look at as someone like Pasternak. His release is very similar to that standpoint. But Schmidt has such a heavy windup with that toe drag, it makes it much heavier, which is kind of quite frightening.
If you look at the whip that he gets on his stick, like I know we're talking mechanics and little things, but like just looking at his shooting mechanics, it's in the top echelon of elite in any league.
And I guess, Alex, you brought up about Alex DeBrincat as a player comp. Someone that I see a lot of too is someone like Cam Atkinson when he was with Columbus. The way that he showcased his shot with that much agility that he has, you're getting a 40 goal scorer. You're getting a 40 goal scorer, upper 65, 70 point range for sure. If that guy hits, who knows? You might get 40-40, but I definitely think he's going to be at least 35 goals. At least.
I agree.
Yeah, one last point on Cameron Schmidt is if this guy was like or if this guy measured in at like 5'10", we could be talking about him going in the top five. It's not even like that's not even out of the realm of possibility. Like obviously he's not going to do that, but he has that kind of talent.
I think if he was 5'10", not only would he be top five, I think he would be in that first. I think he would be first overall conversation with Schaefer and Misa.
Like how incredible. Like that's this draft to me. There's just so much potential with a lot of these guys that I don't think people are talking about. We haven't even talked about like Braden Coots, who's one of my favorite players, or Carter Bear, or these guys. There's still one player on the board too that I can't believe he's still on the board. But we'll go to 16 in Montreal. They have 2 picks back to back. And Blaine, who do you think? Oh, you have both of these. Wow. Who do you think the Habs are going to take?
Make me proud,
Well-
Blaine. Big Habs fan here, so make me proud.
So I do think that Hughes is going to trade one of these 2 picks. He trades a first round pick in just about every draft he's done so far for immediate help. But assuming he doesn't, I think they're going to be looking for, as they mentioned at the year-end presser, players with size, but can also play with pace. And I think Lyndon Lakovic, he fits that bill. He's big. He can play with pace. He can handle the puck extremely well, kind of like a Yoel Armia, but with more offense. And he's an excellent skater. So he would be able to fit into the Canadiens' style of play. There's still some work to be done in his ability to see the entire ice because he kind of gets tunnel vision in his north-south game. He doesn't look a lot of east to west. So if he can work on that a little bit, that would open up a lot more of his offensive potential. But just in a big, strong, he doesn't initiate contact as much, doesn't play that prototypical power forward, but he absorbs that physical play extremely well. And that's the kind of player that Montreal really needs in their system.
Yeah,
a big Lyndon
I
Lakovic
agree. Yeah, I agree. To me, Lyndon Lakovic, he plays such a skill game. And like you said, with the skating, a guy who's 6'4" and can skate like that is very impressive. Like, he's so smooth. Like, honestly, he's kind of like I said, Jackson Smith before. He's like a Jackson Smith type skater, but as a forward, the way I see it. The one thing I don't like about him, for a guy, like you said, he doesn't play that typical power forward style game, which I think a lot of GMs and scouts would like to see that because for a guy that played 47 games, you could look at this as a good or bad, the fact that he doesn't get penalties, but he has 4 penalty minutes in 47 games. To me, that's kind of not a red flag, but I would like to kind of see him mix it up a little bit more. For a guy who's 6'4", I mean, if he wants to get to that next level, not saying he has to go out there and, drop the gloves and fight someone or, run someone from behind and get a 5 in a game, but 4 penalty minutes to me in 47 games is kind of like, is there a little bit of a lack of that grit, that I'm trying to think of the word, but like that sandpaper that me personally, a guy who's 6'4", I would like to see more of. But I do like the pick. I think it's the right one at this spot.
I do see it more as him being a disciplined player. I haven't seen enough games to differentiate between the two, like to really make a true statement on that. But I'm not too against the player getting fewer penalties.
Yeah, that's why I said it's not a good or a bad thing. To me, I see him as being just looking at this player's progression and the way he plays. I see him as a lot like Anthony Mantha.
Yes.
That's
Great name.
that's my projection with the Lyndon Lakovic, a big
Yeah.
guy who, you would think would be a power forward, but is more of a skilled type of guy.
Got a good shot. He has a very
Yes.
nice shot.
Hmm.
Yeah, Lyndon Lakovic is soft skill, whereas you see the raw potential. And also, I asked him about this, why he doesn't use his body as much, and he said that he has recently grew to that height, so he's learning how to use his body more. And one of the things that he's actually focusing on is getting his body filled out and using it more to protect the pucks, win board battles, and there's a heavy emphasis on that, especially going into the off season. So I think that he already knows that, and he said that he's gonna work every single day on that. I think that if you get a different Lyndon Lakovic, because I asked him what his primary focus was when he first got into the WHL, and it was basically he didn't prioritize playing a 200-foot game as well as he was just trying to dangle every single player. Now it's just different. He started to learn how to be that complete 200-foot player while also growing to 6'4". It's very Beckett Seneca. You remember,
Yes.
very
Yeah.
Beckett Seneca.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's good to
I
hear that he's aware of that too. Because if he says that to, in his meetings with teams, I think that'll make him wheep up the rankings, kind of like Beckett Seneca did.
I completely agree. Canadians or the Habs would be so happy with their first pick to be Lyndon Lakovic. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
So for number 2 of the Habs picks, who do you think they're taking if they don't trade it?
If they don't trade it, I mean, they still need to get some more centers. Sure, they've got Michael Hage. He's going to be a couple years away. He looks like he's going to be a top 6 player, but they do need to kind of augment that a bit. And I was looking at the list, and I'm thinking, geez, who could it really be? And I think someone a little bit off the board, and that'd be William Moore from the US Senators.
I love him.
Interesting. He brings a lot of pace, actually.
Exactly. He's a good skater. He plays at a very high pace. He's very good in those small areas, very good stick handler. He's got good vision, and he's big enough that he's willing to play a little bit more physical and go to those dirty areas. And that's all stuff that Montreal desperately needs in their system. That's the kind of guy that on a second line would be a very strong playoff option.
Hmm.
I had William Moore in my November rankings in my top 20. So same with Cole McKinney though, but I liked both of them. William Moore fell for, in my opinion, not a lot of reasons. He's been incredible this season. I think this is a great pick. Definitely not off the board. He's not on the list of players I gave, but that's just he should have been for sure. William Moore is a gamer, really good player.
I think the
And
reason he fell, I don't think it's so much because of him. I think it's because other players elevated their game
Yeah.
more than him. I remember when Tyler and I went to go watch him play in Oshawa. My opinion, I wasn't too impressed. I could see the potential. He's definitely a project for sure, but I think Montreal's a good team for him where, he doesn't have to be rushed into the league in, 2-3 years. But I think with his most recent play at I'm drawing a blank on it.
Huns.
The under 18s, thank you. His recent play there, I think that kind of made him go, hey, I'm still here. Look at me. Don't forget about me. I think that's a good pick though at 17.
And he's going to Boston College, so he's going to be going to one of the premier programs in the United States. Excellent coaching, amazing program, and it'll buy him time to refine his game as well.
Yeah.
For sure.
with Haggins, right? Is he still? I believe that's going to be an incredible 1-2 punch if he is slated as second line, and he'll learn a lot from him. So that's a really good pick, and I feel like the Habs would luck out to get Lakovic and William Moore. At 18, we have Alex with the Calgary Flames. Who do you think they're going to take here?
Calgary can go a lot of different ways here, just looking at who's available. There's Definitely a lot of talent. In my opinion, I don't see Logan Hensler getting taken here. I think Calgary has more than enough right-handed defensemen in their pool. To me, if Carter Bear didn't get his Achilles, get that Achilles injury, well, I would have think Carter Bear would have been way higher up in the picks. But to me, I think this is the perfect place for Brady Martin to go
Yeah.
at 18. I think Calgary, is just that's a place that he's gonna love. They're gonna love him. I think Craig Conroy will be so happy to see Brady Martin available at 18, and I think it's a perfect fit.
I think so too. He loves those types of players, honestly.
Yeah.
It's honestly surprising that he's still on the board
I
because we
know.
were discussing him at 7.
Yeah. It's
And if he
crazy.
doesn't go to 7 or 13, he could fall all the way down. It's one of those drafts.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? I think with this draft, when you mentioned before, like, oh, next year's draft, everyone says is so much better, but this year's draft is deep. I think the reason people say that is because of the lack of first round talent defensemen in this draft. When you look compared to next year, so I think that's why a lot of teams are gonna worry more about getting those centers and those big wingers as opposed to, players like Hensler and Blake Fiddler, even like Sasha Boumediene. When you look at next year's draft, I don't have the list up in front of me, but I was looking at it the other day for next year's draft, and wow, are there a lot of first round caliber defensemen. So I think if you are a team like Calgary who just looking at their pool, they do need help on that left side. I think they're gonna say, let's hold off on that need for right now, and let's get that next year. Why not get a Brady Martin who's going to run, Connor McDavid through the wall in 3, 4 years? Why not?
That's a great pick. If Martin is there at 18, for sure, I think Calgary takes him. I think like a lot of teams would want Brady Martin. Like I said, he might jump up all the way to like a top 7 pick. Like very, very good value, and every NHL team needs a Brady Martin. So
Yeah,
anybody else want to talk about Brady Martin before we move on?
I said my reasons before.
Yeah.
I think he's that good. I think he's heck of a shot, best physical player in this draft for his size. No doubt about it.
All right, we'll go to 19 to the Blues, and this is me. I'm actually going to go with Carter Bear here. I love Carter Bear so much. Like his player comp he told me it was Brandon Hagel. I actually got to talk to him after the lacerated Achilles, and he told me it was like last week. He said that his progression is going super quick. He doesn't obviously like have a timeline or anything, but he is very well spoken, quiet kid, but he's very humble. He said 2 years ago he wouldn't have ever even dreamed of being in the NHL draft process. Like this is somebody that has a lot of talent and he's a workhorse. Like he's somebody that is going to do the dirty and it's gonna work in the playoffs. Like he has an incredible backhand as well. If you guys haven't seen his hat trick against the Seattle Thunderbirds, that his last goal with the backhand was absolutely ridiculous. Like
Mhm.
very great goal. So I'm a really big fan of Carter Bear. The skating is kind of like will it improve after an Achilles injury? You have no idea, but if the medicals are clear and at 19, I think that it's just a perfect area to take him. He would be a top 12 player in this class if there was no injury. So,
I had
uh,
him for the injury.
Blues hockey. The way he
Mhm.
plays is how the Blues have been known to play for decades. So
Yeah.
it just really, it's one of those player and team fits.
just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to be here, but yeah, you are correct. I could see the Blues actually try to trade up for a Carter Bear, not fall in his lap. And every single player that we've taken, it's been their kind of player because that's this kind of draft, like we continue to say, like Brady Martin at 18, 19, Lyndon Lakovich. There's not a lot of players that are right, like that are surprise picks. Like Cameron Schmidt at 15, that might be him falling, not
Yeah.
pick that, in my opinion, because I'm a huge Cameron Schmidt guy. Like there's so many of the Kayshawn Aitchison maybe, but like you said, he has the best slap shot probably in this class. Like so, there's just so many guys. Like Victor Eklund fell to 11. Like there isn't really a place for Carter Bear here, especially with that injury. Just because it's not even on him. It's just like that talent is just so good with Carter Bear. The upside is so like there. So I think the Blues would love to get him. And like you said, that's a Blues player.
Yeah.
So Anybody
agree.
else have a thought
I
on?
think outside of Victor Eklund, he's the most tenacious player in this draft. To me, like I like the Brandon Hagel comparison. I had in my mock draft, I always put like a player comparison next to it just to kind of remind me. I put Arturi Lehkonen.
Oh, that's a good one.
I think he's a that type of player, and it will be interesting to see how his skating looks once he comes back from that injury. I think if he loses, that quarter step, half step, I don't think it's going to be, that bad just because his motor and his tenacity is so high.
Yeah, he wasn't like the reason that he's a top 15 projected pick isn't because of his high-end skating. It was because of how much he worked. Like his hard skill, his tenacity, like you said, he brought those words up 4 or 5 times in our 15-minute interview. Like he knows his game. He's very
Mhm.
high IQ. He breathes hockey. He's also a Maple Leafs fan, so
That's a
Go
I
Leafs,
thought I'd
baby.
bring that in there.
No.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, Brandon Hagel's a perfect fit for a player comp for him. Like somebody that I think could perform very well in the playoffs.
for sure.
All right, we'll go to 20 to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
I
And then
think
we
this is
have
me.
Tyler.
Oh boy, what do the Blue Jackets do? They could go a lot of ways since they already took. I want to say it was Malcolm Spence they already took. They could go with someone like Cole Reshny, who's an absolute banger. He scored a lot of big time goals, one of which Alex and I saw at the CHL Top Prospects game where he just wired one top shelf to win
Hmm.
it. I got to see him score some big goals at the under-18s. But I think this is going to be probably the biggest hot take. And I think this is where we see our first goalie in Joshua Ravensbergen is where we go. And I
I
think
completely agree.
with Columbus, you don't really have the greatest goaltending depth. I get you like Elvis Merzlikins, but you want size, you want someone who could stop pucks. Joshua Ravensbergen, I think, is the one.
That's why I
That's
had him in my
awesome.
mock draft.
The two teams that I think are going to take goalies in the first round are Columbus and the Predators. We've already heard the Predators say they're going to use one of the top 3 picks for a goalie. I think this would be a phenomenal pick.
Oh, for
Ravensbergen is
sure.
big. He's a good goalie. I think that this is kind of a no-brainer pick, unless somebody falls. But
I could see Ottawa taking a goalie.
Well, they got Allmark.
Yeah, but outside of him, like in terms of actual like prospects, like, they don't really like Mad Sogard hasn't really panned out all that much. And besides him, they don't really have anyone.
Marilainen,
Yeah, he's
more of a backup though, I guess.
yeah, like I could see if Columbus doesn't take him here, I could see him going like Ravensburg going 21 or 22 to Nashville. Like he's gonna go in one of those three picks, in my opinion.
Blaine, do you have anything on Ravensbergen?
Goalie. That's all I got.
That'll be the headline. Great goalie, Blaine. All right, at pick 21, we got the Senators. Tyler, you are back up again.
Back to back. Okay. I'm thinking of like two players. I'm thinking someone who I think I'm a huge fan of, and I think he fits what the Sens are as an identity. Jack Murtagh, I think, is gonna be the pick. And the reason why I say that is you look at how Ottawa is building their team, they like speed. And they're a very powerful and fast team. You look at players like Tim Stützle, he's developing that physical style of game. You got Brady Tkachuk. You got even someone like Dylan Cousins, he's learning the adaptability of playing at a faster pace. Someone like even Drake Batherson. But you notice the whole aspect, they're all playmakers. You get someone like Jack Murtagh, second line goal scorer. I think you could get at least 20. You could get 20, 25 goals, 50 points. I think that's a very nice second line forward for the Ottawa Senators. Jack Murtagh. He will need some work. He is somewhat of a project defensively because he can be puck watching quite a bit. But offensively speaking, I think he can definitely be a second line player for sure.
Do you have a pro comparison for Jack Murtaugh?
I'm not gonna say Brady Tkachuk because I think Brady Tkachuk is a lot better than Jack Murtagh, but someone that I always looked at, someone like Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider's style of player, he's not gonna be as good, but stylistically brings a lot of pace, a lot of speed, powerful stride, and a heavy shot. That's gonna be the game. Is gonna be power, speed, and shooting. Might not be the best playmaker, similar to Kreider, but physically speaking, I think Chris Kreider has a lot of what Jack Murtagh brings.
I like the fit. I like the fit for sure. All right, so 22. I'm up for the Calgary Flames here. And I think I'm gonna go Braden Coots because it's just my best player available. I think the Flames have a lot of just holes in their prospect pool. I think that Braden Coots is just a really good leader. You saw him, he was Captain Coots at
Yeah.
Hockey Canada, and I thought he played incredibly well. He helped win them gold. You saw him at Seattle all season long. Radim Merka said he's the best player he's ever played with. Braden Coots said that his pro comp or the player that he tries to model his game after is Braden Point. And I think that it's just kind of goes to show like the confidence that he has, the ability of his compete. He wants to be the best player every single night on the ice. I think that Braden Coots should probably go in the top 20. But since this class is best fit available, not even best player, because everybody's in that same range, that the Flames luck out here.
I like it. I think it's a good fit. To me, when I watch him, I see so much of Marty Necas in his game.
Yeah.
I think that's such a good comparison. The skating is so good in Braden Coots. Looking at his stat line, yes, he didn't put up, like 90 something points like a Cole Reshny did or, those types of players, but he's a gamer. I mean, he's the captain of his team at 18 years old, already pretty impressive. His skating is so good. It's so good.
That's very true. That's an aspect I didn't even touch on, but he skates like the wind. He really does.
Wouldn't be
That's
surprised if they go Ben Kindle also. He's a
that is
Cal
also one
guy.
for sure. I mean, stay in the area.
Yeah, doesn't hurt.
No,
Centerman. It's another centerman anyways. And you could also put him on the wing because he does bring a lot of pace to his game too.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. That's a really good point. They probably do go him if he's available as well. But okay, so 23 at the Hurricanes. Alex, who do you think they're gonna take?
Okay, so Hurricanes, I think this is, in my opinion, one of the easiest picks in this entire draft. If you look at who Carolina drafts, and it's blew my mind when I went to look at it, it's all Russians. Like, I couldn't believe how many Russians they take. It's like every year they draft 4 or 5 Russians. I don't know I didn't look into who their scouting staff is in Russia, but like they must have a ton of influence because every year I think they have like 8 Russian defensemen, 6 Russian right wingers or left wingers, excuse me. Like it's crazy. And if they take Russians, Ivan Ryabkin is there. I think that's where they go. I think Ivan Ryabkin, if there's any team that's going to take him, it would either be Vegas or Carolina
Yeah, for sure.
Or Capitals.
or Capitals. But I think Carolina is okay with Ivan Ryabkin being just based on how he's kind of gone this year. It's been a little weird for him. Switched leagues, came over to North America, had a kind of okay start, and then really turned it on late in the year. I think if becomes Jordan Stahl's replacement as that third line center, that kind of big power forward type center, I think Carolina will be more than happy to have that.
if they can find a way they'll have to interview him and double check, but the inconsistencies in his game. Like from game to game, he doesn't show up the same. Like he
Mhm.
did in the second half in Muskegon,
Yeah,
but was
for
that
sure.
just because it's a new place and he's going to start to dip again? Or, those are the questions that if I were making that final call, I'd want to sit down and talk to him first. But otherwise, yeah, he is a good fit.
And I mean, Carolina is in a position where right now they're just looking at, in my opinion, upside. I think Ryabkin's a project player, but there's a reason why coming into this year he was looked at as a top 5 pick. Now, there could be so many reasons. There could be, something in his personal life. I don't know. I don't know anything about Ivan Ryabkin's personality. I've heard some issues, but again, that's kind of hearsay. I think just purely based on fit, upside, where he would fit in Carolina's lineup, I think Ivan Ryabkin is the perfect fit for Carolina.
I really liked Ivan Ryabkin, especially when he went to Muskegon. I like Muskegon a lot. They have so many good players. One of them is one of my favorites in the class, Vaslav Nestrasil.
Yeah.
And then like they have a 2026 Lawrence who's incredible. And he might have been better than both of them. So I just think that Ivan Ryabkin was kind of like the Cole Iserman this year, like top 5 pick, and then fell all the way down. So if Carolina picks him, he's probably going to be a 3-time Stanley Cup winning championship player. Maybe not with them, but he's going to be a star for them, but then he's going to leave. But 24 for the Flyers. Blaine, who do you think the Flyers are going to take with these back-to-back picks? You got every back-to-back pick. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even pick those. Well, the Flyers, like they got 3 picks. These are the second and third picks in the first round. They're right at the start of a rebuild, so they need a little bit of everything everywhere. But they already got they already got Matvei Michkov. They already got Oliver Bonk. But they do need more on the right-hand side on defense. And I can see them going to Bonk's teammate in London, and that's Bruskewitz. He's
Oh,
a
Henry
right-handed
Brisset.
D. Yeah, and he's got the size. He's got the reach. He can play a mean game when he has to, but he can help on the power play. And I think that's what tips the scales here for him versus Blake Fiddler because of that ability, that offensive ability.
That's a great pick and definitely a fit need. I'm just so surprised to see Cameron Reed still on the board and Blake Fiddler. It's just like I could definitely see the Flyers taking defenseman here for sure. And their right side, you are right. They need somebody. I put Henry B because I don't know how to spell that, and he's not on the list. But Henry B would be fantastic.
I could type it. Don't worry.
And then who do you have for 25 here? Yeah,
Fit.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
favorite
that's
player, my favorite player in this draft.
it's everyone's favorite player in the draft. It's very interesting.
He's such a hardworking, no nonsense type of player. He loves to go to the front of the net. He's really good at tipping pucks. And he's got that size and the speed that the Flyers love. He's one of those middle 6 wingers that thrive in Philadelphia.
He's a Flyer.
he's a
Yeah.
Philadelphia definition of
Flyer.
a Philadelphia Flyer. I think he could be as good as a Wayne Simmons type.
Yeah, he does play a similar style.
He's good at everything. I mean, and I will say one thing, the biggest knock with Bill Zonin at the start of the year was his skating. It's gotten so much better. One knock that I saw with him was beginning of the year, I loved Bill Zonin. I still love him. He's my favorite player in this draft. The one thing I always noticed that he didn't do was he didn't have that like long range wrist shot. You know, a lot of his goals were in front of the net, tips, off of rebounds and stuff, but he didn't have that like
Killer instinct.
well, no, he didn't have that like really power play from the top wrist shot that, like, you know, for example, not saying he's a similar player, but like, you know, like an Austin Matthews where just curl, come in, rip the puck. Oh, my dog is barking. But from the beginning of the season to the end, he was getting the puck on the power play at the top of the point, coming in and just ripping wrist shots. Like he looked like a Jack Murtagh from the point, just ripping bombs top corner and consistent. So to me, that was like, okay, in my opinion, I don't see any flaws to his game. He can play center, he can play wing, penalty kill, power play, 6-on-5, 5-on-6. He on the point, he can play in front of the net, he can play in the bumper, he can play at goal line, he can play anywhere. He's truly a coach's dream, in my opinion.
When I talked to him, he said he loved chess, and he actually loved chess even like he loves hockey, especially when he was younger. And he
Not
plays like
surprised.
he's a chess player. He's very strategic out there. He's like an owl. He doesn't move if there's no reason not to move. It's very
I'm
strategic.
Not surprised at all. And I think what really helps him too is how crisp of a distributor he is. You see, Alex,
Yes.
like every puck that he gives to his teammates, they come flat and they come hard. And those are 2 important things that you need to be as a playmaker. And he's
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah, like I told Tyler
Anthony.
when I was talking about Bill Zonin, my player comparison for him was Jumbo Joe Thornton. I think
Yeah.
that he has so many of those aspects that made Joe Thornton such a great player, the size, the playmaking, the physicality. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to be Jumbo Joe, and I don't think he has that first line potential, but like Blaine said, that middle 6 winger, I think is perfect. It's a good fit with Philly. And you know, if Rick Tocchet becomes their new coach and
he's gonna
stays
love
there
him.
for a while, wow, he's gonna love him.
Yeah, Bill Zonin is a great player. All right, 26 for Nashville Predators. Their second of their 3 picks. Alex, who do you think they're taking here?
Nashville. I mean, kind of like before where you said, like I said, they need scoring, but they go James Higgins with their first pick. Looking at their D core, the left side looks pretty okay. Roman Yossi's still solid. They have Brady Shea signed long term. I like Jeremy Lozon as a bottom pairing guy. Then you have, some depth guys like I personally really like England. I think he's a good number seven. And then they also have Tanner Molendijk. So I think on the left side they're good. I think this is where Blake Fiddler goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a good fit. Nothing more to say. Just a good second pairing guy, in my opinion. I think weigh in, him and Hensler. My opinion with Hensler, I like some parts of his game. I think the IQ is really lacking and the confidence is lacking a lot with him. Where I think Fiddler is more of a safer pick. He's got the size, right-handed shots. I think it's a slam dunk pick for Nashville.
I think they're running to the board for that pick, running to the board. And another thing too, familiarity with the organization since his father, Vernon Fiddler, played for that organization too, which really helped.
Yeah.
That's right. I think it's a win-win for player, for team, for everyone involved in this pick. I think it's safe, it's good, it's what they need. He falls in that range. It's not a reach. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, for 27 for the Kings, I'm going to stop a faller right now. And it was between two players, Colin Potter, who's I think is the best skater in the entire draft,
That's true.
as well as Logan Hensler. I'm going to take Logan Hensler here just because I really like Logan Hensler's game. And I think when I asked him who his player comparison was as well, and he said a right-handed or right side Jake Sanderson. And I think that it actually is a really good fit. I think he has really good offensive playmaking ability. You see the first couple games in the NCAA, he was the youngest player in his entire team. So it took him a little while to adjust, but you saw he was stick handling through multiple defenders, as well as there was one play when he took the puck from coast to coast and then did a wraparound pass right to his center for a goal. And I thought, wow, like you can see the offensive upside in his game. And he knows that he didn't have the best offensive year, but the thing is he was under 19 defenseman. I think he was second in points in the entire NCAA. So Logan Hensler does have that upside too, and he was really good and stable defensively. So I think the Kings would love I don't think it's like a fit based for their prospect pool. I just think that Logan Hensler and Fiddler both fell here. So I think those two teams would definitely want to take those guys. And I think the Sharks would love to have Logan Hensler fall to 28.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree.
Yeah, I mean, my thing with Hensler was like from beginning to end of season, it was like a night and day player. Like I remember Tyler and I was showing him his first game. It was against Wisconsin, and I was watching it on YouTube, and I was so puzzled with his game, especially in the offensive zone. Like there were times where the puck would be on the half wall and he would just be standing outside of the blue line. Like what are you doing? And it wasn't just once, it was like 4 or 5 times in the game. And I was
Probably more
watching.
than that, Alex. Probably more than that.
Yeah, like I'm watching this and I'm losing my mind. I was losing my mind. I was watching. I'm like, what is happening? This is like, am I missing some sort of like weird new strategy that I've never heard about? But again, you could see it was a confidence thing because once he got adjusted to playing the NCAA game, which me personally, I think he should have stayed in the junior ranks, in my opinion, for this year.
USNTDP.
Yeah, even though they weren't that good of a team, I think he should have stayed, especially since Wisconsin was not a good team this year. But as the season progressed and you could see the confidence was coming, I think the coaches, were throwing him out there more, trusting him more. And he scored this one goal where he just took it on the blue line, walked the blue line, stopped up, cut in, dangled the opposing player and sniped it top corner. And it was like, whoa, where was this all season?
I know.
Like, if that was the type of player he was at the beginning of the year, we're talking about a top 15 player in this draft.
Probably top 10. I'd say probably top 10, but for me, when you're looking at an NHL player, you want hockey sense. And I think there's just something about him that I think he's got this nervousness to him. I'm like kind of like watching over highlights and that sort of thing. And I'm like, get engaged. Like, what are you doing just staying at the blue line? Just you're stuck. Like it feels like I don't know what he's trying to think because it's so puzzling, you know?
Which is why I say he should have stayed in the junior ranks this year. Because I think that first half of the season really, really destroyed his draft stock like a lot, which again, he's being picked at 27th. I think at the beginning of the year, he started off being ranked like 8th or ninth or
Hmm.
10th, like in that range.
He was argued to be the second best defenseman in this draft.
I mean, not to say maybe in the future he's not going to turn out to be, but again, like you don't want to rush your career because, if you get put in a position where you're not ready for it, it could hurt you. Like it wouldn't surprise me if Logan Hensler falls out of the first round.
I don't have him as a first round pick right now. I don't have him as a first round pick.
I think going to Wisconsin definitely hurt his stock for sure. There's not even that's not even in question. But for 28, Tyler, who do you think the Sharks are going to take with their pick?
It stings for San Jose. It really stings for them to not get Hensler. I think you have to go best player available, and that's Cole Reshny. Cole Reshny is the best player available by far at this point. We're talking about you already have Mike Misa, you already have Macklin Celebrini, you already have Will Smith, and you have Victor and sorry, not Victor, William Eklund. Sorry. You can have a whole type of combination scenario. The fact of the matter is you're definitely gonna have Koreshny at least as a second line centerman. You can win face-off. He can absolutely win face-offs, which I think that's an underrated feature as a centerman that you need is that you need to win face-offs. And in order to have puck possession, you need to win face-offs, you need to win puck battles, you need to win races, FBRs. And I think he fits that billet. I think Cole Reshny, his hands are really soft. His passing's quite crisp for what it is. But he's got an amazing shot. He's got this arsenal that you don't see in a lot of players where you have specializations. He doesn't do everything super amazing, but he does everything really good. Similar to someone like Malcolm Spence, except his skating could be a little better for someone who's 5'11". Would like for him to be more explosive. I think that's one knockoff that I have. Other than that, I think by far his offense at this point is probably the best to this certain degree.
Yeah, you had a really good end of the year for sure. Very hot. And then Tyler, you have the 29th pick for the Blackhawks. Who are you going to take here?
Chicago. I'm looking at their goaltending, and I think well, you already have Spencer Knight as your a guy of the future, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go for Jack Ivankovic as a goaltender.
I would be so happy. He's one of my favorite players in this
I
entire
wouldn't
class.
be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised because he's done everything. He knows how to win. And you want to set a winning culture, get a winning goaltender. That's how you set that culture because you already put confidence and trust into that type of goalie. I get he's only 5'11". Lucy Saros is 5'11", and look, he's a top 10 goalie in the NHL.
That's his player comp for himself.
I'm not saying that he's gonna be a Lucy Saros, but he has that mentality to be, which I think is really important for goaltenders.
It is. That's a really good pick. Like I said, UC Saros is his player comp for himself. He believes that winning is what defines your success as a goalie,
Yes.
and I completely agree. That is 100%. And then we're gonna go to me with the Nashville Predators. I actually was gonna take Ivan Kovic here as well, and I thought his pronunciation was Ivankovic because when I was in my interview with Matthew Schaefer, he said Jack Ivankovic was the best player he's ever played against, and it steered me wrong for about like the last 2 months on podcast I've gone on. So thank you, Matthew Schaefer, for that. But I'm gonna take Milton Gastrin here because I just think that he is falling. I think he could go in the top 15 as well. Milton Gastrin is a leader for that Swedish team. Very, very cool player. He says he models his game after Alexander Barkov and Sidney Crosby. So, he just has full confidence in himself. I think at a minimum, he's going to be a top 9 player in this league. Or a top 9 player for his team, not in the league, but because that's way different. He has top 6 upside for sure, in my opinion too. He has an incredible motor. He does the little things well too. He finds the open space a lot, and a lot of his goals, if you watch his tape, they're around the net. It's just him outworking other people, getting rebounds, having that net front presence. So I feel like Milton Gastrin would be a perfect fit for the Predators who just want to take best player available.
I actually have him going with Nashville's second round pick at
Yeah.
37.
I agree.
I like the fit. I think he's a good player. He's big, skates well. All Swedes, pretty much all Swedes skate well. I don't think there's a Swede that doesn't skate well. Yeah, it's a
He's
good
very
fit.
smart. Very smart, which I really like that.
Okay, and then we'll go to 31 for the Capitals, and we go back to Alex. Who do you think?
Washington. This is an interesting pick because I have a player in mind and I kind of think it's a reach, but I like this pick. I think they'll take him with their second round pick, but I don't think he's gonna be available. I have them taking Vaclav Nestrasil.
I like
I
that
love
pick.
him.
I love.
I think he's rocketing up the board. Ben Kindle is still available, which is the player I was debating. Something about Nestrasil in a Washington Capitals jersey just makes sense to me. I don't know what it is. Washington's not a team that needs size. You know, they have both Protas's, Tom Wilson, he's still there. They're not a team that needs size. Just something about this fit, Nestrasil, Washington, something about it, like him being on that, I could see him once Ovi's gone, you know, I could see a player like him kind of moving up into that second line, more of a middle six right winger, but like I think this kid is so I think there's so much room to grow for this kid. He hits hard and he's
Yeah.
big. He's got a lot of skill. There's a lot to like with this kid. And just looking at the rankings, like a lot of people have him in the 40s, and then Elite Prospects has him at 26. And I think a lot of people are kind of paying attention to him now, especially his playoffs, 12 points in 11 games. He's committed to going to UMass. He's still going to play another year in the USHL, and he's only going to get better.
Mhm.
And I think Washington, it's a good fit for him. I could see them taking Kindle and then maybe trying to go for Nestor still with their second round pick, but just the thought of him rising up the rankings, I could see a team like, San Jose maybe going for size, Nashville going for, instead of maybe if they don't like Gastrin as much as Nestor still, they say, hey, let's snag him. I think it's more of a, let's take him before other teams catch on type of pick.
I completely agree. I really like Vaslav Nestersil. I'll make this quick because Blaine is at 32, but four brothers. One was drafted by the Red Wings. His dad played in the NHL as well, or a couple cups of coffee playing hockey. Nestersil is big, 6'5", almost 200 pounds, really plays well, has a lot of upside, kind of is coming into his own at Muskegon, had his first 8 games, he didn't really have points, and then he just shot out of a cannon. Very good player. And then he's going to be a commit to UMass next year, so it's going to be really good for him. Then 32 to the Jets. Blaine, who do you think they're going to take to close out this draft?
Well, I think they're going to go for the best player they can find. Obviously, they got a decent prospect pool, but nothing that really stands out. No one with any significant skill set that kind of puts them ahead of the others. So I think in this one, I can see them going with Inz Wozniak. He's, a big, good skating forward with a great shot. He lit up the J20s up in over in Sweden this year. He did amazingly well in the world under 18s. This is a kid that projects to be a top 6 winger. And if you can get that at 32, that's a home run.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him for sure. We had a great talk couple 4 weeks ago and stuff. Like he's a guy that just loves hockey. All of his teammates rave about him. He's very funny too. He's a lot of he's just a personality too. So I don't think that he's actually even going to be here at 32 too. But even Colin Potter didn't even get drafted in this mock draft. So that kind of shows how much depth there is in this class. But I think that's a great pick, Blaine. So does anybody else have any thoughts on Ish Wozniak before we close this
Yeah,
out?
I have one, and it's kind of ironic actually because early on in the season when I was looking him up and getting familiar with who his game was, player I wrote down right away. I thought it was so fitting, Patrick Laine.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's who I immediately was like, this kid is Patrick Laine 2.0.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit more well-rounded than Laine, especially considering the fact that he actually can play center. I don't see him being a center. I see him being a winger in the NHL. but I see so many traits of Patrick Laine. I think he's got better skating than Laine, where Laine tends to kind of play like a tripod with his legs spread out as far as humanly possible, which I don't get. Whereas is Wozniak, he's got that motor, he moves his feet well. But I think if Winnipeg can kind of resurrect that Patrick Laine type player that they thought Laine was going to be when they drafted him years ago, I think that's a great pick at 32.
Just to talk about Line just for a second, in 2016, Line was drafted, and then in 2016, 2017, he actually had 37 goals as a rookie, and he was second in rookie scoring because Matthews had 40. So I don't know
Mhm.
if we'll ever see that again, but they combined for 37 or 77 goals, which is absolutely nuts.
Crazy to think people were thinking Laine was better than Matthews. Like I remember there was that whole, who's better, Austin or Laine, and now I mean it's clear, but
Yeah, it's Line for sure. But thank you guys for joining me. If we would have done 64, I think we'd have been here till 2 a.m. But this was awesome just to meet everybody for the first time. But this concludes Draft Pros Hockey's first edition of the 2025 NHL mock draft. So like and subscribe, and I'm going to leave all of their socials in the description. So thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you next time.